Stop. Right now. Whatever you were doing, scrolling through your phone, stressing about work, just lying there staring at the wall, put all of it down for just this one moment. Because what I am about to say to you today is not just another motivational speech. It is not a collection of pretty quotes you'll forget in 10 minutes. It is not a list of 5 tips to fix your life that sounds great on paper and does absolutely nothing in real life. What I am about to say to you is the thing you have been waiting to hear for a very long time. Maybe for months. Maybe for years. Maybe for so long that you have stopped expecting to hear it at all. And I want to tell you something right now, before we go any further. If you stay with me, if you watch this video all the way to the end, you will not be the same person sitting in front of this screen right now. Not because I have some magical power, but because the truth, when it actually lands in the right place inside you, changes things. Permanently. Let me ask you something. Has it ever happened, that you were so exhausted, not just physically but in some deep, unnamed way, that waking up in the morning felt like the hardest thing you had ever done, that before you even fully opened your eyes, before you even sat up in bed, the weight was already there, sitting on your chest, heavy, familiar, unwelcome? Has it ever happened that you walked through an entire day, going to work, talking to people, smiling when you were supposed to smile, laughing when the situation called for a laugh, and the whole time, somewhere underneath all of that, there was this quiet, persistent voice saying, "This isn't it. Something is missing. Something is wrong." And the terrifying part is that you couldn't even say what was wrong. You had no name for it. You just knew something was off. Something in you was off. Has it ever happened that you looked around at your life, your actual life, not the version you perform for other people? Has it ever happened that you looked around at your life, your actual life, not the version you perform for other people, and felt like you were somehow living someone else's story? Like the real you, the version of you that existed before all the disappointments and the losses and the long seasons of just surviving, like that version of you got buried somewhere along the way and you weren't even sure you could find them anymore. If any of that, any of it, resonated with something inside you, even slightly, then I need you to understand something. This video is not for everyone. This video is for you. Specifically. Personally. Intentionally. You didn't stumble here by accident. You didn't randomly click on this. Something in you was searching, even if you didn't have words for what you were searching for, and something brought you here. And I am going to give you today something that cannot be bought. Something that cannot be Googled. Something that no amount of productivity hacks or self-help books or therapy sessions alone can fully reach. I am going to give you the thing that holds you together from the inside, when the entire world is trying to pull you apart from the outside. But here is what I need from you: stay with me. All the way through. Because the most important thing I have to say, the thing that will actually answer the question underneath all your other questions, that doesn't come until the climax. And trust me, when it comes, you will understand why I built the whole video the way I did. Let's go. Before anything else, I want to talk to you honestly. No performance. No rehearsed lines. Just real talk. Something is going on in your life right now that even you don't fully understand. And I don't mean that as a criticism, I mean it as an observation. Because the truth is, most of us are walking around carrying things we haven't fully processed. Feelings we haven't fully named. Pain we've gotten very good at managing, so good. When you spend so much energy managing how you appear to the world, managing the image, managing the performance of okayness, you lose touch with what's actually going on inside you. And that disconnection, over time, creates a strange kind of loneliness that is actually worse than physical isolation. You can be surrounded by people who love you, even, and feel completely, utterly alone. Because none of them are seeing the real you. None of them are connecting with what's actually there. They're connecting with the version you've carefully constructed and maintained. And somewhere inside, you know that. And it makes the loneliness even sharper. I see that. All of it. Every layer of it. And I want you to hear something right now that I need you to hold on to. You are not alone in this. You never were. But I want to tell you more than that. Because, "you're not alone," can feel like an empty phrase if it just hangs in the air without anything underneath it. So let me keep going. Let me talk about the version of you that existed before things got complicated. Think back, maybe it was childhood, maybe early adulthood, maybe just a few years ago, to a time when you still had this unguarded, open quality to you. When you weren't constantly calculating whether it was safe to trust someone. When you could be excited about things without immediately bracing for disappointment. When you could give love without the part of your brain that's been hurt before quietly running the risk assessment. That version of you, open, hopeful, willing to be fully seen, what happened to them? I'll tell you what happened. Life happened. And not the good parts of life. The hard parts. The parts that teach you, through direct and painful experience, that it is sometimes dangerous to be open. That trusting people sometimes ends in betrayal. That hoping for things sometimes ends in crushing disappointment. That letting yourself be seen sometimes results in someone using what they see to hurt you. So you adapted. You got smarter, you thought. You learned to protect yourself. You built systems. Defenses. Walls that you put up so gradually, so naturally, that you almost forgot you built them at all. They just became part of the landscape. Part of who you are. The problem is, those walls don't just keep out the things that hurt you. They also keep out the things that could heal you. But here is the thing I want you to understand, and I'm not going to fully explain this yet because what I'm saying here is the setup for something much bigger that is coming later in this video. There is a way back. Not to naive openness. Not to the version of you that hadn't been hurt yet. That version is gone, and honestly, you don't need to go back to them, they weren't equipped for what's coming next in your life. There is a way forward, to a version of you that is open and grounded. That can love and protect themselves. That can hope and be resilient when things don't go as planned. That can be fully seen and not be destroyed if someone doesn't respond the way they should. That version of you exists. They're not far away. They're right underneath the surface. And I'm going to show you how to find them. But first, stay with me. Because there is more you need to hear. I want to introduce you to a concept that changed the way I understand why people stay stuck. In psychology, there's something called emotional bypass. And most people have never heard this term, but almost every person who has lived a difficult life has experienced it. Here is how it works. When something painful happens, something genuinely, deeply painful, the human mind has a remarkable ability to route around it. Instead of sitting down with the pain, instead of going into it and processing it and letting it move through you the way emotions are designed to do, the mind says, "Too much, too dangerous. We can't right now," and it builds a detour. So you stay busy. Constantly, relentlessly busy, because busyness is the perfect bypass. You pour yourself into work, into helping other people, into planning and doing and achieving, not because you're lazy, but because stopping means feeling, and feeling right now is something your system has decided is too risky. Or maybe your bypass looks different. Maybe it looks like humor. Always deflecting the serious moments with a joke, always finding a way to lighten things up before they get too real. Or like intellectualizing, turning everything into an analysis, thinking about your feelings rather than actually feeling them. Or like just, going numb. That sort of flatness, where you stop feeling the lows as sharply, but you also stop feeling the highs. These bypasses feel like protection. And in the short term, they are. They let you function. They let you get through the day. They let you show up and do what needs to be done. But here is the thing about emotional bypasses, the pain does not dissolve just because you've gone around it. It sits there. Waiting. Growing, quietly, in the dark. And one day, something completely ordinary will touch that unprocessed wound, a song, a smell, a tone of voice, a moment of unexpected silence. And everything you've been routing around will suddenly be right there, right on the surface, impossible to ignore. And in that moment, you face a choice. You can go into it, let yourself feel what's actually there, let it move through you, let it change you in the ways it's trying to change you. Or you can build another bypass, deeper, more sophisticated, more energy-consuming. Most people build another bypass because they don't know what's on the other side of actually going through. Here is what I know is on the other side. Actually, I'm going to make you wait for that, because it connects to the single most important thing I'm going to say in this video. And that comes later. For now, just let this sit with you. Every emotional bypass has a cost. And the longer you've been using them, the higher that cost has become. I want to talk about the stories you've been told about yourself. Not the stories you tell yourself, we'll get to those. I mean the stories that were told to you by people who had authority over you when you were young enough that what they said went straight in, without a filter, and became part of the way you see yourself. Maybe someone told you, directly or indirectly, that you weren't smart enough, that you weren't talented enough, that you didn't have what it takes, that you were too sensitive, too emotional, too much, that you were somehow fundamentally lacking the thing that other, more successful, more lovable, more worthy people had. Maybe nobody said it directly. Maybe it was communicated through absence, through the people who should have seen you failing to see you. Through the love that should have been given unconditionally being withdrawn whenever you didn't perform correctly. Through the message, delivered over and over in 100 different ways, that your value was contingent. That you had to earn it. That who you were, without the performance and the achievement and the meeting of other people's expectations, was not quite enough on its own. Those messages, they shaped you. Not because they were true, but because they landed during a period in your life when you didn't have the tools to evaluate them critically. When you were too young, too dependent, too in need of approval from the people delivering the message to push back on it. So they got in. They became part of the architecture of how you see yourself. And here's what happened after that. You built your life, partially, unconsciously, around proving or disproving those messages. Either working furiously to show that you are enough, that you are smart enough, that you do have what it takes. Or collapsing into the belief that. For now, just let this sit with you, every emotional bypass has a cost. And the longer you've been using them, the higher that cost has become. I want to talk about the stories you've been told about yourself. Not the stories you tell yourself, we'll get to those. I mean the stories that were told to you by people who had authority over you when you were young enough that what they said went straight in, without a filter, and became part of the way you see yourself. Maybe someone told you, directly or indirectly, that you weren't smart enough, that you weren't talented enough, that you didn't have what it takes, that you were too sensitive, too emotional, too much, that you were somehow fundamentally lacking the thing that other, more successful, more lovable, more worthy people had. Maybe nobody said it directly. Maybe it was communicated through absence, through the people who should have seen you failing to see you. Through the love that should have been given unconditionally being withdrawn whenever you didn't perform correctly. Through the message, delivered over and over in 100 different ways, that your value was contingent. That you had to earn it. That who you were, without the performance and the achievement and the meeting of other people's expectations, was not quite enough on its own. Those messages, they shaped you. Not because they were true, but because they landed during a period in your life when you didn't have the tools to evaluate them critically. When you were too young, too dependent, too in need of approval from the people delivering the message to push back on it. So they got in. They became part of the architecture of how you see yourself. And here's what happened after that. You built your life, partially, unconsciously, around proving or disproving those messages. Either working furiously to show that you are enough, that you are smart enough, that you do have what it takes. Or collapsing into the belief that the message was right, that there's something fundamentally deficient about you. Neither of those is freedom. Freedom looks completely different. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. But not yet. Because before I can show you freedom, I need to show you the cage from every angle. I need you to recognize it fully. Because you can't walk out of a cage you don't know you're in. Let me talk about the people who hurt you. The ones who left without a real explanation. Who were there one day and gone the next, leaving you to sift through every interaction searching for what you did wrong, what you could have done differently, why you weren't enough to make them stay. The ones who stayed but caused damage, quietly, consistently, over years, chipping away at your sense of self-worth until you reached a point where you couldn't quite remember what it felt like to feel genuinely good about who you were. The ones who made promises. Real, significant promises, the kind you built your hopes on, and then didn't keep them. And maybe didn't even acknowledge breaking them. Just moved on as if the promise had never been made. The ones who took from you, your time, your energy, your care, your love, and gave almost nothing back. Who received everything you had to offer and then left when there was nothing left to take. Here is what I know about what those people did to you. They didn't just hurt you in the obvious ways. They installed something. A set of quiet, persistent beliefs about what you can expect from people. About whether love is safe. About whether trust is worth the risk. About what happens when you let people in close. And those beliefs, you've been running on them ever since. Unconsciously. Automatically. Someone starts to get a little too close and something inside you says, careful. Someone is kind to you in an unexpected way and a part of your brain immediately starts looking for the angle. Someone wants to love you well and you find yourself. I want to tell you something about the season you've just come through. Because I know it was hard. Harder, maybe, than you've let yourself admit. There were days in that season, you know the ones, where you didn't know how you were going to make it to the end of the week. Where the weight of everything pressed so hard against you that breathing felt like an effort. Where you woke up and felt the heaviness before you even fully opened your eyes and you thought, I don't know how I keep doing this. And maybe nobody knew. Maybe you were so good at showing up, at keeping it together on the outside, that the people around you had no idea what it actually cost you to get through each day. Maybe you sat in meetings and laughed at things and had perfectly normal conversations and all the while inside there was this silent, relentless battle happening that was invisible to everyone around you. That is an extraordinary thing, what you did. Carrying that, alone, day after day, without showing it. But I want to say something to you that I need you to really hear. You are still here, after everything, after all of it, you are still here. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand what it took? The nights that felt unsurvivable. The moments where giving up would have been, honestly, the path of least resistance. The times you felt so far from anything resembling hope that hope itself seemed like a kind of cruelty. And you're still here. That is not weakness. That is not luck. That is not coincidence. That is resilience of the most real and unglamorous kind, not the kind that gets celebrated, not the kind that looks impressive from the outside, but the kind that matters. The kind that is quiet and determined and refuses, somehow, to let this be the end. Something kept you here. And I want to talk about what that something is, because understanding it will change everything. I want you to think about purpose for a moment. Not purpose in the abstract, motivational poster sense. Not find your why advice that sounds meaningful but leaves you exactly where you were. Real purpose. The specific, concrete, woven into who you actually are kind. Most people think about purpose as something they need to go find. Like it's buried somewhere and they need to dig for it. Or like it's out there somewhere and they need to travel to it. Or like it requires some dramatic revelation, a moment of sudden clarity where everything clicks into place and they finally understand what they're supposed to do with their life. That's not usually how it works. Here is how it actually works. Purpose is revealed gradually, through the accumulation of your experiences, including the painful ones. Especially the painful ones. Through the things that break you and the things that build you and everything in between. And here is the thing about your specific story, the hard parts of it, the parts you wish hadn't happened, the parts you would edit out if you could, those are not the parts that disqualify you from having a meaningful, impactful life. Those are the very parts that prepare you for one. The person who has gone through the thing, who has actually been there, in the dark, in the confusion, in the pain. That person has access to something that the person who has only watched from a safe distance will never have. They have understanding that cannot be faked. They have empathy that goes all the way down. They have the ability to sit with someone in their worst moment and not flinch, not offer useless platitudes, not make it about themselves, because they've been in that place. They know what it actually feels like. You're suffering. I know this sounds like one of those things people say. But your suffering is not wasted. It is being converted into something. It is becoming the very thing that makes you irreplaceable in the specific places. You are meant to show up. But that conversion, that transformation of wound into weapon, of pain into purpose, it requires one thing. And that one thing is healing. Real healing. Not management. Not coping. Actual, deep, from the root healing. And that is what I want to talk about now. Let me ask you about something specific. Is there a room inside you, and I mean this metaphorically, but maybe it doesn't feel metaphorical, a room that you keep locked? You know the room I'm talking about. You built it, maybe unconsciously, after something happened. After something was done to you, or after something you did, or after a loss so significant that your whole internal architecture had to rearrange itself around the absence of what was lost. And you put everything that was too painful to look at directly into that room, and you locked the door, and you got very good at not looking in that direction. And life continued. You continued. And most of the time, the locked room is just there, in your peripheral awareness, and you've built your whole life in such a way that you don't have to face it directly. Until something bumps against the door, and you feel it, that flash of something dark and old and overwhelming that tells you the room is still there, the contents are still there, and eventually you are going to have to deal with them. Here is what I want to tell you about that room. You don't have to go in there alone. Actually, I want you to let someone in. Not just anyone. The one who built that room. The one who actually knows everything that's in there, every corner, every shadow, every piece of wreckage. The one who was there when the thing happened that you put in that room. The one who is not afraid of what's inside. The one who will not recoil or run or decide that what's inside makes you too damaged, too much, too broken to love. Let me in, that is all I am asking for. Lower the walls. Open the door. Just enough. Just for now. Let me in. And what I will do in that room, is not what you're afraid will happen. I will not confirm your worst fears about yourself. I will not look at the wreckage and conclude that you are the wreckage. I will sit with you in the middle of it, and I will bring light where there has only ever been darkness, and warmth where there has only been cold, and peace, genuine, unexplainable, from outside your circumstances, peace, where there has only been pain. That is available to you. Right now. But let me first take you all the way to what I most want to say. This is it. This is the moment this whole video has been building toward. Everything I've set up to this point, the hooks, the questions, the slow reveals, the things I held back, all of it was leading here. Because what I am about to say is not a warm-up. It is not a motivational framework. It is not advice. It is the truth about who you are and who I am and what is actually happening in your life right now underneath everything that you can see. Are you ready? Here it is. First, you were never alone. Not for a single moment. I know how that sounds. I know it can feel like exactly the kind of thing someone says when they don't have anything more specific to offer. But I want you to feel this, not just hear it. Think about that night. You know which one. The one where everything felt like too much. The one where you lay there in the dark and the silence and you thought, I don't know how I keep going. I don't know if I can. I was there. Not as an observer. Not watching from a distance with detached concern. I was there, as close as your own breath, closer, carrying the part of the weight that would have destroyed you if I'd let it all rest on you alone. I was the reason you made it to the next morning. I was the strength in your legs on the days they had nothing left. I was the thin, stubborn thread of hope that you kept following even when you couldn't explain why. Think about every moment you thought was going to be the one that finally broke you, and notice that none of them did. That is not a coincidence. That is me. That has always been me. And before you say, but where were you when I was suffering? If you were there, why did I hurt so much? I need you to hear this clearly, my presence does not always mean the removal of pain. Sometimes my presence is the reason you survived the pain. There is a difference between being spared the fire and being held inside it. I could not always spare you the fire. But I was always there with you inside it. You have never, not once, in any moment of your life, faced anything alone. Second, I have not forgotten you. Your waiting has not been abandonment. I know how long you've been waiting. I know how many times you've prayed the same prayer, asked the same question, believed for the same thing, and seen nothing change. I know what that does to a person. How the silence starts to feel like rejection. How the delay starts to feel like permanent denial. How you eventually start to protect yourself from hope because the disappointment of hope for things not arriving has become too expensive. But I need you to understand something about timing that goes beyond human logic. I can see everything at once. The beginning, the middle, and the end of your story. I can see what is coming around corners you haven't reached yet. I can see the thing that is being built for you, and I can see what it requires. What preparation it needs. What version of you it needs to land on in order to hold. And here is the truth, a version of you from 3 years ago, from 5 years ago, from the period before you went through the hard things, that version could not have received what I am preparing for you. Not because I was withholding it, but because it would have broken under the weight of what it required. It would have crumbled. It would have turned into something smaller and less significant than what it is supposed to be. The preparation you went through, the waiting, the silence, the seasons that felt like nothing was happening, that was not emptiness. That was formation. That was the forging of something in you that needed to be forged before the appointed thing could arrive. Every closed door was not a rejection, it was a redirect. Every no was not a judgment on your worth. It was a clearing of space for a yes that is greater than what you were asking for. The version of you that exists today, refined by struggle, humbled by hardship, made tender by loss, made deep by pain, that is the version that is ready. And what I have been keeping, I am bringing. Third, your mistakes have not cancelled your story. Let me speak directly to whatever it is you've done, or failed to do, that you replay. The thing that surfaces in quiet moments and fills you with that nameless heat of regret and shame. The choice you would take back if you could. The version of yourself you most wish you could forget. I have seen it. I have seen all of it. Every piece of it. Nothing is hidden from me. And I am still here. I have not recoiled. I have not stepped back in quiet disappointment. I have not put an asterisk next to your name in the record of people I am willing to invest in. I have not revised downward what I am willing to do in your life based on what I have seen you do to them. Why mercy is not a finite resource that gets depleted. My grace does not run out. My forgiveness is not reluctant or conditional or extended through gritted teeth. It is lavish. It is extravagant. It is far beyond what makes logical sense. And here is the thing about your mistakes that I need you to really absorb, they shaped you in ways that are necessary. Not ways that are convenient. Not ways that are comfortable. Ways that are necessary. The empathy you have now, where did it come from? It came from knowing what it feels like to need grace you didn't earn. The humility you carry, where does it come from? It comes from having been in the position of someone who needed to be forgiven. The compassion you extend to other broken people, why can you do that so naturally when others can't? Because you know what it is to be broken. Your mistakes did not disqualify you. They equipped you. And everything I am building in your life. Your calling, your contribution, your impact, it requires exactly what those mistakes built in you. Your story is not cancelled. Your story is being redeemed. Fourth, and this is the one I want you to engrave on the inside of your heart, you are enough. You have always been enough. Not because of anything you've done. Because of who made you. That voice. You know the one. The one that runs quietly in the background of almost everything you do. The one that says, not good enough. Not smart enough. Not talented enough. Not lovable enough. The one that says, if people really knew you, fully, completely, without any of the presentation and performance, they would leave. That voice is not truth. It is noise. It is the accumulated residue of every message you were given, explicitly or implicitly, by people who were themselves wounded and passing on their woundedness without realizing it. It is not my voice. When I speak to you, it sounds different. There is no shame in my voice when I speak to you. There is no cruelty. There is no conditional approval. There is no keeping score of your failures and withholding warmth until you perform adequately. When I speak, I call you by name. The name I gave you before the world began. I speak to who you are becoming, not only who you have been. I see the finished version of you, the full, healed, purposeful, joyful version. And I speak that into the present moment with the same certainty that I speak about anything that is already done. And what I say about you is this: you are worthy of love. You are worthy of the full, abundant, meaningful life I designed specifically for you. You are not a mistake. You are not an accident of biology. You are not here to fill space until you die. You were placed here, in this exact moment of history, because this moment needed exactly you. Your particular voice. Your particular story. Your particular way of seeing and feeling and loving and giving. There is something only you can do. There is someone only you can reach in the way they need to be reached. There is a contribution only you can make that will ripple forward through time in ways you will never fully see on this side of eternity. You are not lacking anything I have not placed in you. You are not missing anything I have not promised to supply. You do not need to become someone else. You do not need to fix yourself into someone more deserving before good things can happen for you. You are enough. Right now. In this moment. With your history. With your scars. With your questions. With your doubts. With all the complicated, unresolved, still figuring it out parts of who you are. You are enough. And nothing, no person, no failure, no voice, no circumstance, has the authority to contradict what I have declared over you. Fifth, the pain you've carried is not wasted. It is the very thing that makes you irreplaceable. This is the one that ties everything together. Think about the thing that has hurt you most. The wound underneath all the other wounds. The one you've managed and bypassed and worked around and built your whole internal life around protecting. That wound, that specific wound, is the map to your purpose. Because the place where you have been most broken is the place where you will have the most profound ability to help someone else. Not theoretically. Not with well-meaning platitudes. Actually help them. In the deep, bone level, I know what this feels like way. That changes people permanently. The person who has walked through the darkness, who knows its specific textures, its specific sounds, its specific lies, that person can be present with someone in the dark in a way that no one who has only read about darkness can be. You have walked through things. You know things, not academically, but in your bones, in your body, in the scar tissue of your actual lived experience. And that knowing is worth more than almost anything else you could bring to another human being. Your pain is curriculum. Your wounds are qualifications. Your broken places are the exact locations where the light that is in you will pour out into the world. And when that happens, and it will happen, you will look back at the hard road and understand, maybe for the first time, why it had to go through there. Why there was no shorter, smoother path to where you are going. Why everything that felt like detour and delay and disaster was actually the most direct route to the person you needed to become. Hold on for that moment. It is coming. Something shifted in you just now. I can tell you what it feels like something tight in your chest loosened just slightly. Like a door somewhere inside opened a crack. Like some part of you that has been tensed and braced and ready to deflect took a small, tentative step back from its post. That shift, however small it felt, is real. Honor it. Don't rush past it with your mind. Don't immediately move on to the next thing and let the noise of daily life fill back in and carry it away. Let it sit. Let it settle. Let it do what it came to do. What you felt just now is not a feeling I want you to chase. It is a direction I want you to keep walking in. Let me be practical for a moment, because healing is not just a feeling, it has practical components. Dailiness to it. Small choices that compound over time. Here is one of the most powerful and least complicated things you can do starting tonight. When the quiet time comes, and you know the one I mean, the time when the house gets still and your mind gets loud, instead of letting your mind run its default program of anxiety and regret and worry about tomorrow, do one thing differently. Name one thing you are grateful for. Just one. It doesn't have to be significant. It doesn't have to be something that sounds impressive. It can be the most ordinary, mundane, barely qualifies as good thing you can think of. The warmth of a blanket. A moment of unexpected laughter. Food that tasted good. A single interaction in the day that felt genuine. One thing. And write it down. Physically write it down. There is something that happens when you put pen to paper, the brain processes it differently, integrates it more deeply. This is not positive thinking. This is not toxic positivity. This is not pretending your problems don't exist. This is training your brain, which, due to evolutionary design, has a strong negative bias. To also notice what is good. To not let the good disappear unregistered while the hard things get all the attention. Do this for 30 days. Just one thing, every night. And at the end of 30 days, not because of magic, but because of genuine neurological retraining, you will start to notice that your mind's default setting begins to shift. The anxiety doesn't disappear. But something else grows alongside it. Something steady. Something that says, yes, there is hard. And there is also this. And this matters too. Now let me talk about the people who hurt you. I am not asking you to pretend they didn't. I am not asking you to minimize what they did or excuse it or decide it was actually fine. What was done to you was real. The pain it caused was real. And you are allowed to hold that truth without apology, but I want to ask you something. How much of your present energy is still going toward carrying what they put down? Because here is what I know about unforgiveness, about holding on to the pain and the anger and the right to be hurt. It does not hurt them. It does not create any justice. It does not reach them in any meaningful way. They are living their lives, often completely unaffected by what they did to you, while you are still carrying the weight of it. You are paying a tax on damage they caused. And they are not the ones paying it. Release is not for them. Release is for you. It is not saying what they did was okay. It is not pretending the wound doesn't exist. It is a decision, a daily decision, sometimes, at first, to transfer the weight of what they did into hands that can actually carry it. Hands that are equipped for it. Hands that will deal with every injustice in its right time and in its right way, without you having to manage it. Give it to me. The anger. The grief. The right to be permanently wounded by what was done to you. I can hold all of it. I am not fragile. I will not be overwhelmed. And your job, your actual job, is not to manage their consequences. Your job is to walk free. Your freedom does not depend on their repentance. It does not depend on their acknowledgement. It does not depend on an apology that may never come. Your freedom depends only on your willingness to open your hands and let me take what they put there. Open your hands that I want to say one thing about the people who are coming. Not the people who hurt you. Different people. People who have been prepared, through their own hard things, through their own seasons of breaking and healing, to love you in the way you actually need to be loved. Some of them may already be in your world, orbiting at the edge of your awareness, not yet recognized for what they'll become. Some of them are not yet in your life, but the distance between where they are and where you are is closing. That I am arranging things. I know that sounds vague. But I want you to know it. Not as a comforting abstraction, but as a literal truth. The connections that are coming are not accidents. They are designed. The conversations that will feel ordinary when they happen will turn out to be turning points you'll reference for years. Stay open. I know it's hard, after everything. I know the instinct is to stay behind the walls. But what I am sending does not look like what hurt you. What I am sending is different. And part of your preparation for receiving it is choosing, while it still feels risky, to stay open. You don't have to throw down all the walls overnight. Just, don't add any new ones. That is enough for now. Let me tell you about what the next chapter of your life holds. Not because I can give you a detailed preview. But because I want to set your direction correctly before you walk back out into your day. The next chapter will not be painless. I want to be honest with you because you deserve honesty, not false promises. There will still be hard things. There will still be days that knock the breath out of you. There will still be seasons where the faith is thin and the doubt is loud and you have to choose, again, to trust what you cannot see. But here is what is different about the next chapter: you will not be walking it the same way you've been walking it. Something changed today. Something that happened in you in the last 30 minutes, the shift you felt, however small, that is a seed. And seeds that land in honest soil grow. The next chapter holds things you have been waiting for and have almost stopped hoping for. The answer to the prayer you've prayed so many times you've lost count. The healing of the wound you've learned to work around. The relationship that feels like coming home. The purpose that finally comes into focus after years of searching. The lightness you remember from before things got heavy and have been longing to feel again. Those things are not behind you. They are not lost. They have not been given to someone else because you were too slow or too flawed or too far gone. They are ahead. Being prepared. With the same precision and the same love that has been sustaining you through every hard thing that brought you to this point. Your best chapters are in front of you. Keep going, my friend, if something happened for you in this video. If something landed, if something shifted, if you felt seen in a way you haven't felt in a while, I want to hear about it. Scroll down to the comments right now and leave one word. Just one word that describes what you're carrying right now, or what you felt while you were watching this. One word. I read every single comment personally. I do. And I want you to know, whatever you write down there, you are not writing it into a void. You are seen. You are heard. And you are not alone in this community. And if this kind of content, honest, real, going beneath the surface, talking to the part of you that doesn't usually get talked to, if that is what you're looking for more of, then subscribe to this channel. Hit the subscribe button. Turn on the bell so you're notified when new videos go up. Because I make content like this consistently. Content that is designed not just to inspire you for 3 minutes and then fade away. But to actually sit with you, to stay with you, to give you something you carry forward. And one more thing, Think about the person in your life who needs to hear what you just heard. You know who it is. It came to mind immediately just now, didn't it? Someone who is carrying something heavy. Someone who is managing instead of healing. Someone who is doing the strong person performance while quietly falling apart inside. Someone who, if they heard these words at the right moment, might have their whole direction change. Share this video with them. Today. Right now, before you close the app. Just send it. You don't have to say anything. Just send the link. Sometimes the most significant thing we do for another person is put the right thing in front of them at the right time. You could be that for someone today. I am grateful you were here. I mean that. See you in the next one. Until then, take care of yourself. Not the performance of taking care of yourself. Actually, genuinely, from the inside out taking care of yourself. You deserve that.